Welcome everybody. This is our second Sundowner. I can't believe it was a year ago. That is completely freaking me out that it was a year ago that we were standing here doing not dissimilar things. So welcome everybody to the second Women in Gold Networking Sundowner. And again, I'm proud to say it is in conjunction with WIMWA, Women in Mining Western Australia. And can I take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land in which we meet, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. Can I also acknowledge their emerging leaders, who are an important part of the future of Western Australia. Can I take a moment also to honour our special guests, especially the Honourable Bill Johnston, MLA, our Minister for Mines and Petroleum. Minister, we know how much you support the gold industry and we're delighted to see you here tonight. It is a networking function, and those that were here last year will remember I gave you a challenge to go and meet 5 people you hadn't met before. I bet you there's a lot of you that might not have met our new Minister yet, so tonight's the night. Minister, also delighted to have you here supporting women in the mining sector. Thank you so much. Can I also acknowledge my colleagues on the Gold Industry Group board, our debating panel, our members of the Gold Industry Group, and my mining sector colleagues. In fact, can I thank all of you for coming out on a Friday night when we all know it's the festive season and we all have choices at this time of year. It's great to see you back here. Thank you very much. And I'm back here not only as a WIMWA member and a supporter of women in our industry, but also as a director of the Gold Industry Group. So watch out, you might be a director by the end of the night too. So for those that don't know me, my name is Sharon Warburton. I'm a full-time chairman and non-executive director in the mining, infrastructure and construction sectors. I am totally delighted to be here tonight and supporting what will be an incredible evening of debate. And for those that don't know, diversity, flexibility and work-life balance are all subjects that are very dear to my heart. And I reflect again that there is no way I would be able to have grown my career in Perth to where it is without the benefit of networking. So again, I issue that challenge that it's great to catch up with your mates, but tonight is even greater to meet some new people and make some new friends in our industry. So I challenge you all to do that. And please come and say hi if we haven't met before. I look forward to expanding my network tonight. Okay, we've all got our phones. We've all got Twitter. I know that's what you're doing with your phones, okay? There are prizes. There are prizes tonight for those that tweet and post on Insta. Is that what we call it? Or Instagram. So we really use, at the Gold Industry Group, we are big supporters of social media. So when you came in, you all got a card, okay? So I'm sure you're all familiar with the hashtags. So tonight, I know we're all familiar with hashtags because my 7-year-old daughter now signs her name #Chloe. So hashtags is, part of life. So tonight it's #WomenInGold17. We have some, what do we call them? Some cards.
Frames.
Yeah, where we can, you can get your photos with your mates and post it to #WomenInGold17. And you can actually see it up here on the rolling screen. And when I walked in, there was far too many shots at the back of my head. So the more people that post, the less that happens, and I'll be very grateful. But not only do we want your pics, we want you to share your thoughts on what you hear during tonight's debate. So please get on board, #WomenInGold17. And for those that do just like the picture bit, there is prizes. So the 2 best picks, I'm not sure how we're going to define best picks, but will win a fantastic hamper from the Perth Mint. Now, my mind instantly goes to a certain place when I think about a hamper from the Perth Mint. So I reckon that's worth a few photos. So before you go home tonight, we'll be drawing those 2 hampers, #WomenInGold17. Social frames, there we go. A big thanks to our sponsors that made tonight happen. Our gold sponsor, Goldfields Australia, great company and a wonderful joint venture partner, I might add. Host sponsor, the Perth Mint. This is a stunning venue. It is a wonderful experience to come here. Thank you again for making it available to us tonight. And our promotional sponsors, Gold Road Resources. I'm proud to be a non-executive director of Gold Road Resources and proud to be a sponsor of tonight's event. Romelius Resources, Northern Star Resources and BGC Contracting. Thank you to all of our sponsors. I'm delighted to introduce you now to Kelly Carter. Kelly Carter also turned up last year and went home a director, so it's wonderful to work alongside Kelly on the Gold Industry Group board. She's actually the chairperson of the Gold Industry Group, and she's also the Vice President of Legal and Compliance. I'm proud to say she's a good friend of mine. She's a wonderful joint venture partner, did I mention that? And she's a wonderful mum and great lady, and thank you, Kelly.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Sharon. Right, good evening, everyone. It is absolutely fantastic to be back here a year later from the amazing inaugural event last year. I have to say that stepping out of the car and seeing a queue of people going up the street waiting to get in here just absolutely blew me away. So thank you all so much for coming this evening and making it the fantastic event it is. It really is mind-blowing. So as Sharon said, I'm here not only as the Vice President of Legal and Compliance at Goldfields, but in my capacity as Vice Chair of the Gold Industry Group. And for this night only, as Madam Chair of this great diversity debate that you're all waiting for. Now, I know that you all can't wait to hear from our debating panel, as can I. You are truly in for a treat. Before we start, I just wanted to take the opportunity to just share a couple of insights from my first year being on the board of the Gold Industry Group. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar, and I'm sure there's not actually very many of you that aren't familiar with the Gold Industry Group, our purpose is to champion and promote the gold sector across Australia and beyond. We make sure that the wider community is aware of and understands the contribution and value that the gold sector brings to our society. Now, since the Gold Industry Group was founded in late 2015, there's been significant progress in growing our profile, both online and in the real world, and embarking on a number of important initiatives that not only champion our industry, but also causes that are dear to our heart, and of course, diversity is one of them. I just want to share a couple of highlights of the work that we've done this year. So looking first at social media, we have reached more than 2.5 million views on social media, not only in Australia, but worldwide, and I think that's a pretty fantastic achievement. So tonight, I echo Sharon in encouraging you to interact with us on social media and help us to get the hashtag WomenInGold17 trending. So share your comments, share your pictures, and anything that inspires you this evening. You will have plenty of material to work with, I'm sure. We've also hosted or supported more than 20 industry and community events, which not only connect our industry with the community, but also champion issues like diversity, mental health and innovation. We've partnered with a mental health not-for-profit, Livin, to seek to change the way that industry and society understands, perceives and interprets mental health. And we've engaged with Deloitte Access Economics to research gold's economic and social value and ensure that that value is known via the projects and the communications that we issue. But in addition to all of that great work, what I'm really excited to talk about is that early last month, we brought our mining heritage to life for a new generation of West Australians and tourists with the launch of the virtual Heart of Gold Discovery Trail. Now, this launch event was a celebration of the role that gold has played and continues to play in the development of WA. And we saw excited trailblazers head to Elizabeth Quay in the freezing cold in October. You can plan most things, but obviously not the weather. And they took the opportunity to pan for real gold, see inside a gold mine with virtual reality, or as my daughter put it when she put the goggles on, wow, it's a really, really, really big hole. and there are trees. I'm not quite sure what she was looking at, but budding mining engineer there, I think. And also embark on a virtual scavenger hunt. But there were also more than 1,500 people that participated in the trail just in that launch weekend. We also unveiled a replica of the famed Golden Eagle nugget in Elizabeth Quay, and that marks the start of the trail, which takes visitors on a journey through our city, ending right here at the Perth Mint. It's a self-guided walking tour, and it's the first of its kind, and it's available via the Heart of Gold Australia app. And that transports visitors of all ages back in time to the early gold rushes with augmented reality, widgets, video, audio and photographs. We've also worked really closely with the education sector to provide a range of curriculum support materials for year groups 5 to 9. And this puts gold back into the classroom, which we think is so important in terms of breeding the leaders of tomorrow. So obviously it goes without saying, I highly recommend everyone here to download the Heart of Gold Australia app and walk the trail. I guarantee that you'll learn something new about our golden heritage. In terms of what's coming up, next year will mark 125 years since Paddy Hannon, Thomas Flanagan and Dan O'Shea found gold at the base of Mount Charlotte, sparking the biggest gold rush in Western Australia's history. And so to celebrate that anniversary and honour those brave prospectors, a second gold trail will be launched by the Gold Industry Group in Kalgoorlie, Boulder, mid-next year. And that'll provide a really great link between Perth and Kalgoorlie, encouraging visitors to engage with the whole of the goldfields. Now, we think it's really important to tell our story because we know that nobody's going to tell it for us. In a changing world, we may not be able to predict future issues and challenges, but we can be prepared. And by proactively promoting the gold industry's importance to our past, our present and future, we're cultivating a sustainable and prosperous gold industry. Our ongoing engagement with the community and our visible support for the industry is key in ensuring that we remain in the hearts and minds of all Australians, helping to ensure that our industry is recognised for the valuable contribution that it makes to Australia, not just economically, but also socially. The diversity of the Gold Industry Group members represents the entire gold value chain, from geological exploration through to operations, refining and fabrication, from the global distribution of gold to the end consumer, and also community and tourism operators. I'd like to thank all of our 41 members for joining us in championing Australia's gold industry. Without you, we would not be able to bring the story of the Australian gold industry to life. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kelly. And I am very proud of the work that we have done at the Gold Industry Group. And if you haven't checked out the Heart of Gold Trail, strongly recommend it. Chloe, my daughter, is 7. She had a ball, and it's wonderful to see such initiatives coming through from, the work that our organisations are working together to achieve. Right, now it's time. It's time for the debate. I'm going to introduce the 4 debaters. Kelly is going to be Madam Chair, and then I'm going to stand back and enjoy it as much as you guys are. So, fixing women or fixing a system? So for the affirmative, or fixing a system, we have Barry Block, Chief Operating Officer, Project Support, BGC. Brave man, I say. Now, Barry's career, for those that don't know, has spanned more than 25 years, 50 countries, how cool is that? And multiple economic sectors. Previously, Barry was the Group Managing Director People with Worley Parsons. He's also worked in senior leadership roles for both ASX and FTSE top 10 companies and for leading global professional services firms. He specialises in the people discipline with a primary focus on organisational and cultural transformation. Dear to my heart, Barry, in both developed and developing nations. With such a focus on people, I'm really looking forward to what Barry's got to say. And his team member, so on the affirmative, fixing the system, we have Cassie O'Connell. Cassie is a Senior Advisor, Human Resources, Goldfields at the Agnew Gold Operations. Cassie completed her Masters in Human Resources and Employment Relations in 2014, and she joined the mining industry as a graduate with Consolidated Minerals. Since then, she's taken on advisor roles with Goldfields and was recently promoted to a Senior Human Resources Advisor. Cassie is passionate about making change and believes diversity of thought is key to making positive progress now and into the future. Welcome, Cassie. And now to the opposition. We have, no pressure, we have two team members that are going to focus on fixing women. I reckon you must know my mother. First, we have Katie-Jeyn Roman. Katie-Jeyn is a career accelerator. She's a best-selling author and the creator of the Career Acceleration Formula. Katie-Jeyn is no stranger to adversity. She accelerated her own career from a low-paid administration role at Olympic Dam Mine in Roxby Downs through to senior executive roles within 10 years. The work that Katie-Jeyn then led as an executive was recognised nationally with numerous business and industry awards, including the prestigious Workplace Gender Equality Agency Employer of Choice for her work with St Barbara. Through her company, Katie-Jeyn now works with CEOs, executives and ambitious leaders, both male and female. Welcome, Katie-Jeyn. And last but by no means least, we have Brianna Cameron. Where are you, Brianna? Welcome, Brianna. Brianna is studying at Edith Cowan University and she's a production mining operative. So what that means is after spending 7 years FIFO as a mobile plant all-round operator, Brianna is now studying for her Bachelor of Engineering Honours in Civil and Environmental at Edith Cowan University. I reckon that's another cheer. And in her spare time, she's the president of the university's Women in Engineering Club and the Engineers Australia campus representative. During university breaks, Brianna has worked on Shot Crew with Action Drill and Blast, the North Link project with BGC, and will be completing a vacation program shortly in underground mine engineering with IGO. I want your life, Brianna. Please welcome Brianna. And as I said, I now get to join in the fun with you, so I'm handing over to our adjudicator, Madam Chair, Kelly Carter. Away we go.
Thank you. Thanks, Sharon. And just one final note. So, as you've heard, we won't be hearing Sharon's story this evening, but I will put a quick plug in and say that you can hear from Sharon at the WA Mining Club's next lunch on the 1st of December. So I encourage you to join us there. And now to the debate. Tonight, our assembled teams will be debating the following motion. This House says that the pathway to eliminating gender equality in the workplace is to stop fixing women and start fixing the system. Now, as you have already heard, we have two teams, with Barry and Cassie taking the proposition and Brianna and Katie-Jeyn taking the opposition. And the rules are pretty simple. Each speaker will have 7 minutes to present their position. After the first minute, they may be interrupted by an opposing speaker with either a point of information or a question, but the speaker has the choice to accept or refuse that interruption. The final minute will also be protected from questions. Now, at the end of the debate, I'm going to ask for a show of hands from the audience as to indicate which team has won the debate. So listen up, folks. Now, otherwise, all that remains for me to say is that I'm looking for a good, clean fight from my debating team. and a lot of interaction from the audience on social media. So get tagging your comments and your insights at #WomenInGold17. And so without further ado, could I please ask Barry for the proposition to address the House?
Before I start, and this is not in the 7 minutes, we should acknowledge that Brianna wrote 2 exams today for her finals and then comes here. And as I was coming up, I said to Cassie, I've changed the order, you're coming first. And that was the photo that could have won the night. In preparing the speech, I asked a couple of colleagues for a review, and one of them asked me to introduce some humour. I'm going to apologise, I haven't, because this is actually really serious. So Minister, Chair, colleagues, friends, I stand before you to propose the affirmative, that we need to stop fixing women and start fixing our organisations and our strategies, our culture, our leadership, our processes and our systems. By way of a simple example, I remember 20 years ago working in a global professional services firm in the United Kingdom, where year on year, only 4% of new partners were women. By simply changing the partner admission process, applying rigour, discipline, independence of criteria and independence of thought, within 1 year, women admissions to partnership rose to 25%. This level has been sustained in this professional services firm and further improved, to the point now where 47% of the firm's global leadership team are women. I suggest, therefore, that it should not be that hard to change our organisations and our industry. After all, we have successfully transformed the safety culture and performance of our industry. I assert that we should be doing the same for gender diversity. In so doing, I propose that all organisations and every leader here and in our industry can deliver this change by following 7 simple steps. Step 1, we need to confront the brutal facts. We have all seen the statistics, whether globally from the World Economic Forum, who predict that workplace gender equality will now take 217 years to achieve, or locally from our very own Chamber of Minerals and Energy, who found that in our industry, female participation has gone backwards and then plateaued over the past 10 years. We need to acknowledge and accept that our performance in terms of achieving gender diversity has simply been woeful. The fact that we have seen very little, if any, real progress in recent years tells me that we need to look ourselves in the mirror and challenge ourselves to accept our failures to date and tackle this agenda differently. I know for my own organisation and for my executive colleagues, we've taken a very hard look at ourselves and at our gender diversity, including at our gender pay equity. And while we've made some positive progress, especially in the last 18 months, we all know that we've got a long way to go, and we are deeply committed to making this change. Step 2, we need to lead from the top. I believe that as we did with safety, we need real industry-wide gender diversity targets, set by, committed to, and visibly led from the very top of every one of our organisations. With safety, we drive towards zero harm. With safety, we have shown the courage to hold ourselves to account and to change the way we work. Why, with gender diversity, do we not commit to and drive towards 50-50? Surely this is the gender diversity equivalent of zero harm.
On that point,
starts early.
are you accepting?
Are you
Okay,
accepting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Game
A
on.
50-50 target is not the same as a zero target for safety. Zero target for safety means no injuries, no deaths. A 50-50 target does not equate to no harassment, no discrimination, and does not provide for equal opportunity. There are plenty of companies and organisations that have 50-50 women, and they have the same problems as we have in our industry. It's not the right target.
She saw my speech. What she didn't see was steps 3 through 7. My esteemed colleague, I'm practicing minister, I'm sure that's the way you'd put it. My esteemed colleague is right. A target on its own will not deliver. But without a target, we actually can just meander in the way we've meandered for the last century. So I propose to you that if we get the whole industry behind us, set a target, we'll also force ourselves to change the systems, the processes, the leadership, the behaviours and the culture that come behind us. So on that segue, step 3, we need to change our core business. If we continue to assign women mainly to support roles that are not core to the P&L, we will not change our culture. We need women in core and senior business and operational leadership roles. For example, at BGC Contracting, we've set ourselves a whole of business KPI that by 2021, 25% of all operational leaders must be women. I do not accept the excuse that I hear, we cannot find good women for operational roles. My practical experience in our industry, in Australia, and even with all the barriers that we have put in front of women, is that today we can find at least 30% of shortlisted candidates for operational roles who are women. We need to recruit differently. We need to brand ourselves differently. We need to interview differently. And we need to use different decision-making criteria. And no, we cannot find... Would you like to...
On that point,
I actually know she's on my team.
I'm just worried we're going to run out of time, so I had to jump in.
Are you going to take the point?
Absolutely.
We also need consequences. So, what's missing in the system right now is consequences. Most leaders only make change when it's uncomfortable to stay where, when it's more uncomfortable to stay where they are than change. So what consequences are you suggesting that we have in place for CEOs and executives who aren't creating the change?
I love it when she moves to step 5. And I also love it when she makes my argument for me. You're absolutely right. That's a part of the system we have to change. If you allow me to take a little bit of time, I promise to get to the point of consequences. But you're absolutely right. But she's making my argument, just in case you're wondering on the vote for later. So I will return to that, but let me first say that we cannot afford to only start from the grassroots. So many excuses as we start from the bottom. We must start changing the core business from the very top. This requires us to really think differently about the work of senior operational and business leaders and not reinforce the historical and biased leadership assumptions. Step 4 is change our process. This links, funnily enough, to your question. To start, I've already indicated that our recruitment processes are simply flawed. They've been designed largely by men to recruit men into a male-dominated industry. We use masculine language, masculine criteria, and we make masculine assumptions. However, changing our recruitment process may be necessary, but it's insufficient. We must also change so many other people processes. For example, how do we design roles to be flexible? I agree with what Sharon said earlier. I strongly believe that every single role in our industry can be a flexible working role, without exception. Have we built gender bias into our performance reviews and reward and recognition processes? And have we built gender diversity into those same performance reviews and reward and recognition systems? And what gender-based criteria and gender diversity leadership criteria are we using to promote people? There are consequences. We must ask and we must answer these and many other process questions and challenge how we do business every single day. Step 5, hold our leaders to account. I propose that all leaders in our industry need to be held to account to deliver the 50-50 target in all of our workplaces, whether this is through individual performance objectives, recruitment process tracking, or team-based KPIs. It is not too difficult to quickly identify individual leaders who intentionally or unconsciously are reinforcing the male status quo. What we as organizations and as leaders do when we do see and experience and observe gender discrimination will determine our diversity culture and our diversity outcomes. Do we accept it or do we challenge it? Similarly, we need to set requirements for our suppliers and our other external partners so that the change becomes systemic for the whole industry. I especially believe, and I address this to members of the audience, that we need our recruitment and executive search agencies to change the very way that they work. In the same vein, I believe, as we have done with safety, and this is for our Honourable Minister, the government has an important role to play, not just supporting gender diversity in the background, but playing a much clearer policy and influence role in the foreground. After all, the government is actually part of our system. Step 6, educate, educate, educate. Targets, processes, consequences, and leadership only work if we invest heavily in helping individuals to learn and grow. Having worked across numerous countries with systemic and endemic racism and discrimination, I fundamentally believe that not one of us was born to discriminate. We learn to discriminate. Therefore, we can unlearn to discriminate. Yes, our biases will always be part of us, but through consciousness raising and skills building, we can all be far better at treating and leading all people as equal, both inside our workplaces and in our wider society. Step 7. Perfect timing. Appropriate given what Kelly's just done. Step 7, be patient. But not too patient. And that's very important. Yes, changing organizations, cultures, processes, leaders, and behaviors does take time. We need to use all of our change management skills to effect this change. Worthwhile change is always hard, and time cannot and must not be used as an excuse for no change. Our leaders must have the courage of this conviction to make sure that the momentum is created and the change is carried. Our leaders should not be disheartened by either overt or covert resistance. They should be buoyed and bolstered by knowing that resistance means change is actually happening. Our leaders should respond to resistance by accelerating the change process. They should fight against the natural tendency of our organizations, our leaders, and our industry for inertia. Change resistance does not mean slow it down. Change resistance means speed it up. In conclusion, Minister, Chair, colleagues and friends, I believe by following these 7 simple but critical steps, we can stop fixing women and start fixing the system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I'd like to welcome our first speaker for the opposition, Brianna Cameron. Brianna, the floor is yours.
So tonight I've been asked to argue the debate from the opposing point of view, which right now I'm guessing it stands as the unpopular point of view. So what I can tell you is a story. A story about a girl who used to order her high-vis off the men's clothing list, trying to hide her gender. That girl was me. My first mining role was a mobile crusher operator as a teenager. I was welcomed on my first day on site with bets being taken until how long I would snatch it. Most didn't even have me lasting the swing. But years later, I had become a production all-rounder and my sights were firmly set on becoming a digger operator. Standing around one day with the crew before PSI, the superintendent strolls over. He takes a puff on his cigarette and he looks at me. How you going on them machines? Well, I'm standing there enthusiastically, bouncing on the balls of my feet. Loving it, I reply. Next step, I'll be up on that digger one day. Well, he starts laughing and shaking his head. What, you? You won't be up on no digger. I was expecting a bit more laughter, but okay. Thank you. Maybe it's more like a cowboy than a superintendent, but I think we all know the type of person I was talking about there. My time did come for the digger, and I knew I would have one shot at it. If they weren't impressed immediately, it was game over. So I did what everyone would do. That R&R, I handed over my hard-earned money. I hired a 3.5-tonne digger, and I took it to the back of a quarry. I was a pretend digger operator for the day. I built ramps, I made pads to double bench, I climbed up and down stockpiles, I loaded imaginary trucks, and of course, practiced my grumpy digger tone for the two-way. I was ready. I was ready for my big day in the sun. Back at site, the day was here and I nailed it. I had secured myself a spot as a trainee digger operator. I would go from 80 trucks on my first day to 180 trucks a shift. And at just 23 years of age, I had become a full-time digger operator. And well, you've said it right for me. Didn't I just think I had made it? Could life get any better than this? I used to tell this story to demonstrate my resilience and my determination. I used to be proud of this story. For tonight, I was forced to reflect on why women, myself included, needed fixing. Research led me to the book Not Just Lucky. In the book, the author describes common behaviours that women do in the workplace that she believes are about making us less threatening in our careers. I was doing every single one of them. I had begun to speak very little of my ambitions. Why would you when you get laughed at? No one told me I would have one shot, so how did I know that would be the case? Leading to the pursuit of perfectionism versus growing into a role. Using my own personal money and time on a break in a quarry to make sure I would overqualify for selection. More and more examples of past and even current behaviour were exposing themselves. I found myself asking, did I need fixing? I did need fixing, but not because I was born a woman. These behaviours, they weren't innate. They were conditioning. Conditioning I didn't even truly realise had happened to me. 7 years on 2 and 1. I'd spent more time on site than I had anywhere else during such an impressionable age. But 3 years ago, I made a decision. I started an engineering degree at Edith Cowan University. The digger wasn't quite the ticket to the leadership roles that it seemed to be for everyone else. What I didn't anticipate is the effect university would have on me as a person. I didn't know it at the time, but that decision was the beginning of the fixing that I needed. I realised the true meaning of diversity, the power it has on creating a successful team. I was no longer in competition with the boys, trying to obtain a boy's job. It was a job, not a boy's job, and I had every right to aim for any role. For me now, the term fixing women means the return of your true self, the undoing of years of conditioning. I embrace my newfound self-awareness, and I'll work hard to identify behaviour that comes from conditioning rather than personality, aiming to become the right kind of ambassador who embraces, embodies, and acts what it means to be the best version of themselves, placing gender aside. I no longer see the term fixing as a negative, but an opportunity to grow as a person and as a professional. As with any complex problem we face today, it will require a complex solution. And tonight, we give you no wrong answers. But what I hope I have done with my 7 minutes is change your perception of the term fixing women.
Food for thought indeed. Get tweeting, people. I'm now delighted to welcome our own Cassie O'Connell, second speaker for the opposition. Sorry, for the proposition. Gosh, I nearly switched sides on you right at the last. Just keep things interesting.
Right, well, hello everybody, I'm Cassie O'Connell, and what I'm going to tell you tonight is that women do not need to be fixed. This system needs to be fixed if we are ever going to achieve gender equality and realise the benefits that this will deliver for individuals, organisations, our industry and the economy. When I stand here and I say the words gender inequality, I'm going to suggest that the majority of you think of women. And that's because gender inequality is seen as a women's issue to be fixed by women. And this is why we have failed to make any significant progress despite the spotlight on this issue for the past decade. Stats show that females make up 47% of the Australian workforce. But in the WA resources sector, we're sitting at just 18%. How is that fully leveraging off the potential talent pool in our state? That picture's worse when we realise we've gone backwards. As Barry said, we hit our peak in 2011, when female participation was at 21.6%. And it gets worse again, when we realise oil and gas are carrying the resources industry, almost doubling the number of females that we have in mining. So we heard from Bree, and hers is just one story from our industry. In my position as an on-site HR advisor, senior, getting used to it, thank you. I'm privy to multiple employee experiences, both good and bad, so I thought I'd start by sharing one with you tonight. This one's about the sometimes disrespectful attitude towards females in the workplace and the huge part leadership have in changing that. So one of our female employees, who I'm going to call Emily, was sitting in the crib room and she's offered a donut by one of the guys. She refuses the donut and he persists, saying, "I have the donut." She gets to the point where she's like, "Dude, I don't want the donut." He then asks one of the contractors, "Should Emily have the donut?" This contractor, who I'm going to call Richard, turns around and says, "Not with that ass." Emily leaves the crib room after there's a few too many laughs from her male colleagues. The only other person to stand up and say that was inappropriate was the only other female in the room. Now, I always think to myself, how different and how powerful would it have been if one of Richard's one of Richard's mates had stood up and put him in his place, instead of it being seen as women who couldn't take a joke. That contractor was later moved on to another site when the department leadership were made aware of the incident. And might I add, the department leadership are here tonight. As always, it's leadership who set the standards on what is and isn't acceptable. And it just so happens that those in the department leadership were male, reaffirming the message that men are the system, they run the system, and by and large have a huge influence in changing that system. I next want to talk about the pressure on women in our industry to change and how we can address this laterally by support and sponsorship. So in mining, there's a strong FIFO culture. But I don't mean the fly in, fly out. I mean the fit in or F off. And for women in mining, like the rest of our industry, fitting in often means they need to change. To be more assertive, but not too aggressive. To back themselves, to lean in, to be more resilient. However, this all puts the focus on the deficiencies that women bring to the job and ignore the many forms of structural bias that exist in our industry and our society. In my current position, I have not had the same pressure to change. Instead, I have had something far better: support and sponsorship. My current GM is probably one of my largest sponsors, and he recently nominated me as the site's only representative for a global Goldfields Innovation and Technology Review. So this is quite literally a once-in-a-career opportunity, with us being flown across the globe to talk to innovative leaders such as Amazon.com or interviewing the CEO of Dundee Precious Metals. But when I was nominated, comments such as, she was nominated because she's a female, or why would they send HR when they could send a technical person, did make me question these things myself. And for a while, I found myself talking to these amazing organisations and introducing myself as, hi, I'm Cassie, I'm the HR advisor, the non-technical one of the group. The VP of Innovation and Technology pulled me up on this. And what I realised as the review went on was that it was the mix of gender, experience, cultures, and technical expertise that existed in our group from around the globe that was the true breeding grounds for innovation and diversity of thought. A far better outcome than fitting in. So I think this should be a strong reminder of two things. One, that a system where everybody's the same is not the system of the future. And two, as a supervisor, line manager, general manager, VP, you have the influence to change someone's entire work experience or career path. And I urge you all here tonight to take a moment of self-reflection and ask yourself, what am I doing about gender inequality? What am I doing not to help a female fit in, but to support, sponsor, mentor, or encourage a female I know? I now want to talk about one of the most challenging issues our industry faces, and I think the one that has the potential to make the most difference: the ability to retain females once they have chosen to start a family. In an industry dominated by males and FIFO roles, the choice to start a family generally equates to pressing pause or rewind on a female's career. There is a constant stream of incredibly talented females who leave our industry because they see no career path for themselves once they have become a mother, and they're not offered one. Our company lost a whopping $4.5 million in the past 12 months due to employee turnover, with exit interviews showing that development and career advancement is the main reason for people leaving. So it's not surprising when we look at this in relation to our female employees, who make up 17% of our workforce, that their turnover figure is sitting at 19%, meaning we are losing more females than we are retaining. And the day that we fix this is that the day we stop trying to make everybody fit in the traditional work structures. And it's the day that both males and females do things like take equal amounts of parental leave, and both return in part-time or flexible work arrangements, that real progress is going to be made. So I'll say to you all tonight, and I know there's a few leaders here, that this starts with the leadership. The leadership taking these options themselves and thinking, why not? Why can't we make this work? Rather than, why should we? Only when this mentality becomes the norm, rather than exceptions made for females, is when we will attain gender equality. So, from what I've shared tonight, here's how we fix the system. We need to change the mindset of those in our industry and realise it's not women that need to change, it's the structure and norms in our workplaces. Leadership is key. Those at the top set these structures and norms. And remembering that those at the top are still overwhelmingly male. So men, you need to be conscious that you have influence and what you say gets heard, far more than when I stand here and say it tonight. Females, don't be too proud to use this. And everybody, have a why not attitude and ask yourselves, why not? Why can't we make new norms? So why should we do this? This is not about doing the right thing for women. We're going to save millions of dollars in turnover costs and retain the valuable experience that we need in our organisations. We're going to ensure we have the workforce of the future, one that cultivates diversity of thought and innovation. And if that's not enough, if it's not enough that it's good for our industry, how about the fact that it's good for our economy, with stats showing that a 6% increase in female participation could add $25 billion to our GDP. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is why instead of fixing women, we have got to change the way we help them. And that is by changing the mindset of those in our industry and fixing the system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cassie. And so, last but by no means least, I welcome the second speaker for the opposition, Katie-Jeyn remaining. Katie, over to you.
How would you feel if you had the power to affect change within you and all that you had to do was fix yourself? Mahatma Gandhi says, "We must be the change that we want to see in the world." Now that's easier said than done, isn't it? Gender inequality is a bad habit, just like eating too much or not exercising enough. Only gender inequality is a bad habit that affects us all on a global scale. Our collective beliefs, thoughts and behaviours of both men and women are creating the power imbalance that we have in our workplace. And like any bad habit on a global scale, it's going to take doing the right things long enough consistently to create effective change. And of course, some of what we're doing right now is really helping it, is really effective, and some of what we're doing and thinking is not. The notion, stop fixing women and start fixing the system, isn't helpful. It presupposes that women are flawless and off the hook, and they're not even part of the system. And the notion men must fix themselves because they are the system that they have created is even less helpful. It presupposes that only men can affect change. And women have no power, no authority, and absolutely no influence over such an important workplace problem as gender inequality. And I would even go as far to suggest that it presupposes that women need men like Barry with their big cape, to fly in and save us. Make the system safe. Protect us from setbacks. Protect us from adversity so that all of us women can live happily ever after. The truth that so many of us would rather not face is overcoming setbacks, overcoming adversity, disrupting gender bias is the price of entry. If we want a workplace that is free of harassment and discrimination, if we want a workplace that provides equal opportunity, we must step into our own hero's journey and go forward in the face of adversity. Too often, we choose to sweep gender inequality under the carpet. Let it ride. I don't want to make a fuss. My boss is busy. I don't have the time. It's not that important. What if it is important? What if sweeping it under the carpet and avoiding having conversations that create change is what's keeping us stuck? Every woman and man here tonight in this audience is in some way sweeping gender inequality under the carpet. That's why we have a global problem. So, for example, you may not even be aware of how you can be actually helping the change, or You may need to have a good discussion with your manager. You might need to be talking about your career. Your pay might not be right, but you're too scared to have that conversation. And if you're a leader, you may know deep down inside that whilst you talk the talk, you're not actually creating the change in gender inequality. And maybe you are doing everything you can, and you just get to the point where you just can't be bothered anymore. It's just too hard. For example, when Brianna first started studying, just a few years ago, she was considering maybe to go to another industry, because let's face it, from her story, it's been pretty challenging. Even though deep down inside, she knows that she has the passion, talent and desire to affect change in our industry. Like Brianna, whatever issue that you know that you're sweeping under the carpet, she has two choices. You can either...
A question.
Hello, Barry.
It's not my question, but how does it feel arguing for something you don't believe in? I know Katie-Jeyn believes in changing the system, but Katie-Jeyn, my question to you is, if we ask the individuals to change...
Did I accept it?
No.
I'm not sure I did. Are you flexing your muscles, Barry?
I think my muscles slipped around my waist years ago.
Have you finished your question?
Will you accept it before I ask it?
I've accepted.
If we wait for every individual to change in a safety context, how many centuries would it have taken for safety to get to where it is today? If we look at the World Economic Forum data, on the current model where we rely mainly on the individual, it's going to take us 217 years. Now, I know I'm going to be long gone, and I know I want to be part of a world where we see gender equality now. My question to you is, are you prepared to wait 217 years?
No. Thanks for the question, Barry. No, I'm not. So like Brianna, you have two choices. You can either continue to sweep it under the carpet and hope that Barry will one day come in 20 years from now with his cape and sort it all out for us. And we'll probably all be left because the technology will have, advanced that far. So we'll be doing something else. Or, like Brianna, you can choose the hero's journey and step into your power and know that it is going to be challenging. Yes, you are going to have setbacks. And yes, you are going to have to overcome the gender bias issues if you're going to be successful. This is the era where we have this problem. It's our reality. We actually can't escape it. To disrupt the power imbalance, we must go through it. Aim for the challenges that you're sweeping under the carpet. Bring them to the surface, take action, and have a conversation that creates change.
My turn. Mine's a two-part question.
Cassie.
If you'll accept it.
Keep it brief.
Accepted.
Let's leave gender out of it for 1 second. I understand your point about men sweeping in with the cape. Would you say you need the support of those in leadership positions to make change?
I'm actually going to cover that in the next story.
Brilliant. My next question is then, if those in positions of leadership are men, does this not go hand in hand with them needing to help women?
Or men and women need to be contributing to this.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. Thanks, Cassie. Okay, so now I'm going to share an example of a conversation that creates change of a leader who doesn't actually have a title. And then I'm going to finish with some notions that I think that we'll all think that are helpful for everyone. My client, she works for a mining company here in Western Australia, and she's a production manager. And she's really recently been seconded to Perth in a development role. When she started working with me, it was a year ago, and she shared with me that she had endured over nearly 25 years of harassment and discrimination, including sexual harassment, and it was still going on last year. She was sick and tired and wanted things to change, not only for her, but for everybody else in the industry as well, and she was referring to the women. Like many of you, my client didn't know how to have an effective conversation, to have how to create change, especially on an issue that you've been sweeping under the carpet. So I taught her how to do that, and she was absolutely stunned with the results. As she shared her story, she was surprised of how many men, there was as many men as women that were breaking down and crying about her story. And she was also surprised that there was as many men coming forward and sharing their own harassment story. And she was hating men before that. And what she realised, she had a new compassion, because what she realised is we're all in this together. Now, my client has had a profound impact on that site, and now she's having a profound impact within the company, because the CEO asked her to come and speak at a leadership forum where all of the executive team was there and all the senior leaders. There was about 60 people. And this CEO got this leader. She's not an executive, so she is a leader without a title. He asked her to share her story. And there was a lot of tears in the room. That CEO and my client are really creating change. They understand the power of having conversations, getting things up, bringing things up to the surface and having a conversation that creates change. I really encourage you, whatever issue that you know that you're sweeping under the carpet, and you will have thought of one tonight, I really encourage you over the next week to have a conversation that creates change, because it's the fastest way to make change, and we will be waiting a long time for the system to change, but you can make change right now. I'm now going to share with you some notions that I think are very helpful for all of us, especially in the face of adversity. If you'd like, I'd really encourage you to close your eyes and feel them. So, yep, close your eyes. I believe that there's never been a better time than right now for us to succeed and eliminate gender inequality. I believe that challenges in the workplace, including gender bias, are our opportunity to shine bright. I believe when we work on you, your career and life will work for you. I believe that the power to effect change lies within you. And finally, I believe that when we change, everything around us changes. Thank you.
Can we have a huge round of applause for our absolutely phenomenal debating team tonight? Can I just invite all of our speakers back onto the stage? You can stand together. Right, I'm going to open this up to the floor now. Okay, so I would like a show of hands. So those who have been swayed by the proposition, that is, that we need to fix the system and stop fixing women, raise your hands now. Okay, Sharon, I'm relying on you to get a good feel for this. It's a bit of an imprecise science. That's what happens when you have a lawyer chairing, not an engineer. Okay, secondly, for the opposition, we need to keep fixing women. Okay, I think the ayes have it. The proposition wins the night. Just on a personal note, I've been absolutely floored by the quality of the debate this evening and the range of issues that have been brought before you, and really every one of these speakers has really dug deep and truly considered the whole range of issues that this talks to. I'd like to personally thank all of the speakers for their time and dedication and energy to this debate. You've made it a phenomenal evening, and we couldn't have done it without you, so thank you very much.
we can't decide what to do now. I think I had a job also of thanking the speakers and reflecting on the comments, but all I can do is echo Kelly's words. I'm floored by what we just heard, and I don't see any need to repeat it. Every one of you has left messages that really resonate with me, and I have no doubt will resonate with everybody here tonight. So on behalf of everybody here, thank you very much. We're cutting into networking time. We're very aware of that. So for those, I'll just close by saying, for those of you here that aren't members of the Gold Industry Group, your companies aren't members, look at what we do, get on board. So come and talk to us, or our Executive Officer, Rebecca Johnston, where is she? And could we just thank Beck? What an amazing event. Thanks very much for your attention, and remember, you've got 5 new people to meet and plenty to talk about. Thank you very much.